everybody, welcome back. We're week 2 of the Best Shape of Your Life Challenge. Today we're handling the think component. We always talk about eat, sleep, think, move. We're always trying to improve those 4 components. So I brought in a really cool guy today, Miles Nitz. He's going to help give us some insight into the think component of what we do and how to make that better, and some tips and some advice from his realm. So Miles, thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Justin.
Let's just start with your background. Give me some history of what you do and how you got started in what you're doing.
Well, I'm a licensed family therapist, but my love has always been cognitive behavioral therapy. Okay. Been interested in the field of health for, going on 20 years. And discovered a long time ago that I had tried many ways to lose weight. I guess I should tell you, at one point I was over 50 pounds heavier than I am now. So I've been that route of trying to figure out how to lose weight, trying to figure out how to make those things happen. And it happened to trip over cognitive behavioral therapy. Didn't even know what it was at the time, but I realized that was the key. And slowly but surely I began to change the way I thought about food, the way I thought about exercise. And I realized that all those diets, everything I had tried, really didn't touch the way I was thinking. And once I got that under control and started to make those changes in my brain, that's when things really happened.
Okay, so let's expand on cognitive behavioral therapy a little bit. What is it? What are some... Yeah, the average person, same situation. Maybe they'll lose 20, 50 pounds. They've tried every diet in the book. They've tried workout routines for years. They have all the equipment. With the internet, we have access to all the information we want. How do they use these principles to help keep those, or use those for long-term success?
That's a good question. And that's what I would start out with is, we have all that information at our fingertips. And, I have not met the first person who says, well, I really don't think I ought to work out. I don't think that's going to help me.
Right.
Everybody says, yeah, I'd love to, but. And it's that but part. It's, what do we do inside our brain that keeps us from doing the things that we want to do? And cognitive behavioral therapy is really about changing those thought patterns, changing the ways that we have thought about things for a long time. For example, if I say I'm going to work out in the morning, let's say I get the gym membership and I get all my equipment, and I'm going to get up at 5 o'clock and go to the gym. Okay, either it's going to happen or it's not, right? If it doesn't happen, what did I do? What did I tell myself? What thought process took over? Did I tell myself I was too tired? I didn't get a good night's sleep? I can just do this again tomorrow? It's those thought processes that take over, and all of a sudden we're still in bed.
Okay.
And it's those that we have to take apart. So we can do everything else, and we can even start a good workout and work out for a while, but if we haven't really changed those thought processes, we're going to default right back to what we've always done.
So how do we get people to be aware of those? I mean, we all have them in probably lots of different areas of our life, but what's the first step? How do we get people kind of aware of thinking about those thoughts so that they recognize what's happening when they don't make that negative choice?
Well, the first step is to become very aware of that. We have to really listen in and ask ourselves, okay, what am I thinking? So what I have my clients do is start the night before. Write out their goals. This is what I'm going to do. And then as they get up in the morning or whenever they are going to work out, I want them to listen very carefully. And there's actually a word for this. It's called metacognition, which literally means thinking about our own thinking. And we have to get really good at thinking about our thinking, because most people just gloss right over it. They just don't work out and don't even think twice about it. But once we start to dial in, we're going to start to hear a whole lot of things that are going on in our heads that are what I call really the Rolodex, or the library of different thoughts that we use to talk ourselves right back out of what we've intended to do.
So first step, metacognition, we're talking about awareness. So let's say I wake up, I'm planning on working out, and I use an example like you said and say, oh, I'm just too tired to work out. Or I don't have the time. What is then, and I have awareness of the thought that's limiting me, what's then my next step?
The next step is to restructure that thought. The next thing I have to do is say, okay, if that thought was, I'm too tired, then we have to say, well, wait a minute. What do people who exercise say to themselves? What thought process do they use? They're likely to say, I get energy from exercising. Why would I want to leave that on the table? It's not about being too tired. If I'm too tired, that's when I want to exercise. That's when I want to gain that exercise or gain that energy from exercising. So it's a whole different thought process. Now, the point is, it's not so easy as for me to just say that. Most people are going to go, yeah, that makes sense. We haven't even begun at that point. Now we have to load that information. We have to actually take that information and put it into the system, into our own circuitry in our brain, enough times that our brains can actually pick it up. And that can take lots of repetitions. I mean, when you think about it, how many times have we used the default, the negative one, to talk ourselves out of it?
So you're talking, this is on a deeper level, and it's not just about your thoughts. There's physiological changes taking place in the brain, right?
Absolutely. Yes, yeah. Due to, you may have heard the word neuroplasticity, which literally means how the brain changes or morphs. It's rather like plastic, and it can be molded into many different shapes and configurations, really, thought processes or actual circuitry in the brain. And Justin, what it comes down to is it's a numbers game. Our brains are physics, chemistry and electricity, and our brains will follow the path of least resistance every time. So if we have built circuitry which literally builds each time we think, we have a pretty big conduit of thought that leads to, I'm too tired, I can't do this today, I'll put this off to tomorrow. So we have to literally, and I mean literally, build the circuitry in our brain that creates what I call the bypass, the new route that we can now take. But we have to build it the same way. I mean, it takes time. And our brains are limited by time, just like anything else. And we have to then repeat that process enough times that all of a sudden the volume is high enough in our brains that when we wake up in the morning, we might think, I'm a little bit tired, but wait a minute. Exercise gives me energy. We talk about those thoughts that pop into our heads. They don't pop out of nowhere. We have to prep them. And then that thought pops into your head.
Okay.
And this can take quite a bit of time. Many people say, well, okay, 30 days to develop a new habit, that's baloney. There's no way. It's going to take probably between 1,000 and 10,000 reps. Now that may sound like a lot, but Malcolm Gladwell in his book Outliers talks about 10,000 reps or 10,000 hours really to master anything. Yeah. So this isn't something you're going to do overnight. But we can accelerate that process by using some tricks. And one of those tricks is writing. Yeah, absolutely. We don't realize how powerful writing is. It commands all 4 lobes of the cerebral cortex, the frontal lobe for motor skills, the parietal lobe for language skills, the occipital lobe for our vision. We're really firing a lot of what I call cognitive horsepower when we write. So when we take these new restructured thoughts, we need to write them down and write them again and repeatedly until finally they become strong enough, loud enough, powerful enough that our brains can pick them up.
Okay, so if someone say that was someone's negative self-talk, they go to work out and I'm just too tired to work out. You're then saying replace that negative thought with exercise gives me energy.
Exactly.
And then what we would write out, exercise gives me energy, and might, like, say a journal or something like that?
Yeah, journal. Okay. Yep. And then you can expand on that. It's not about rote repetition. If I'm going to say, okay, exercise gives me energy, I'm going to expand on that. I think of it as writing a little thesis to myself. Where I'm going to expand on that idea. Exercise gives me energy, and I'm going to say why. I'm going to talk about how it creates the endorphins that I really want to float through the day with. I'm going to also talk about it to myself, about how it changes my brain chemistry, so I can make use of the dopamine and the serotonin. It keeps my mind clear. I'm going to talk about the calories that it burns. I'm going to just make a whole dissertation about why I want to exercise to gain that energy, to obliterate that idea of I'm too tired. I'm too tired just has got to go.
And I could see where it'd take thousands of times. Say somebody hasn't worked out in 20 years.
Yeah.
I've done anything for a while. That's 20 years of that negative thought building itself in the brain. It's not going to happen overnight to fix it.
It won't. I recommend about 30 minutes a day.
30 minutes
I think 30 minutes a day of focused, intense writing, and only of the preferred thoughts, the restructured thoughts, the ones that we really want to be using. Can think of it, what are the thoughts that support me being an exerciser?
Okay.
Those are the ones I want to fill my journal with. And that 30 minutes is going to be the best 30 minutes you spend of the day.
So this is pretty, would you say this is a universal concept? So say I work out okay, but food's my issue. Same idea?
Absolutely. Think of all of the messages or thought processes we've used for many years considering food. For instance, I will stop eating when I'm full. That's a horribly negative message in my book. That's no reason to stop eating. You want to stop eating when you have consumed what you need to fuel your body for the day.
Gotcha.
So instead of using the idea or the thought of full is a time to stop eating, I want to replace that with I stop eating when I have fueled myself properly for that meal or for the day. It's a subtle twist on the message, but it's a powerful one, because that's why we really want to stop eating.
Okay. So let's kind of take this a step further. I've dealt with people in the past who, say they have a lot of weight to lose, and it's been that way for several years. My experience, it starts to become an identity shift. They start to identify themselves as this type of person, as this overweight person. Not a person who is overweight, but someone who is an overweight person. So they really kind of internalize this identity that this is who they are. Is this a good approach for that as well, or is there a little bit deeper stuff we need to talk about?
No, it's the same idea. And I listen very carefully. When I work with my clients, I listen very carefully to how they verbalize those things. That you can always tell when people begin to talk about themselves. What are they using? How are they talking about themselves? Are they saying things like, well, I just don't think I can do it? If they've got that I can't idea, or if they've got that body image you're talking about where they just see themselves as a fat person, that's that internal dialogue. That's what they dialogue about themselves, and that has to be changed entirely. And people often say, well, okay, wait a minute. So you're telling me that I am supposed to just write things like, I'm a skinny person? No, I'm not talking about that. That's not realistic. But we can write things like, I am well on my way to becoming the person I want to be.
Okay.
And many people will kind of balk at that a little bit and say, but what if I don't really believe that? What if I don't believe that about me? And my answer is, it doesn't matter. Our brain picks up what we feed in. Now, to give you an analogy, think of advertising. Think of the whole commercial industry. Budweiser does not require that you believe they are the king of beers before you see the commercial, right? It's after you see the commercial repeatedly that you begin to believe that. So we have to be very careful about what information we're putting in. And many people are inadvertently putting in just horrible information about themselves to themselves. We have to monitor that as carefully as possible.
Okay. So, as a preferred vendor for the Best Shape Your Life Challenge, you've offered a free consultation to anybody who's willing or is interested in doing so.
Yes.
Give me some kind of, what would they expect? They call you office, schedule an appointment. What are you guys going to talk about? What are you guys going to get into?
Well, I will explain everything I do. I'm very big into making sure that people know exactly how their brains work. I have lots of visual aids, some PowerPoints and things, where I will get in a little bit into the neurobiology of it, because I think it's really important to understand exactly what our brains are doing. Our brains all work pretty much the same. They all have the same set of chemistry, the same neurons, the same way that those things hook up, and we have to be really aware of what is really happening. So there will be a segment where I'll teach them about their own brain, and certainly I'll give them every piece of cognitive therapy that I can squeeze into an hour so that they really understand the process, and I will send them home with an assignment the first day, so they can get going when they leave, when they leave my office.
Okay. And kind of the last thing I want to touch on here is we want to talk about this from a performance perspective, in my opinion, because a lot of times people hear, well, a therapist, I don't have any issues, I don't need to go see a therapist. Well, it's not really about that. It's just about improving where you are, right? It's not about saying I'm broke, I need to fix something. It's, hey, I could really improve in this area of my life. I'd like to make this better. What are some things that I can learn? So kind of give some distinction between that, as opposed to saying, I have all these childhood issues, I need to see a therapist, but
right.
Hey, I just want to lose an extra couple pounds, or I want to really take this to the next level. This is another way I can approach that. So can you kind of give some insight on how that's different and what that means?
Sure. I think of myself as a coach. Just as you would coach somebody in the physical aspect of something. I played baseball through my sophomore year in college, and of course I needed a coach. And the coach was there to help me figure out how to pick up a ground ball, how to tweak my swing. And that's what I do with people. We have to tweak that thinking, and we have to take those reps. I wouldn't have been any good at baseball had I not taken thousands of reps in the batting cages and thousands of grounders at shortstop. We need to tweak our thinking and then take thousands of repetitions. So you're right. People have a stigma or a stereotype about counseling. There's got to be something wrong with me. Absolutely not. You know, something doesn't have to be wrong with you to go find a coach at the gym, right?
Right. Yeah.
You're just trying to improve things, and you know, it's always interesting to me how people don't equate that type of coaching with our thought process. You know, we wouldn't expect that we would go in and talk to somebody for a little bit and be a great baseball player. It's not going to happen.
Right.
You know, that is a long, slow process. And tweaking our thinking to where we want it to be follows those same rules. You know, we don't get to take shortcuts just because it's a different kind of learning. It follows those same rules. You need a coach. You need somebody who's going to help you stay on track. And you know, if I'm gonna get my car fixed, I'm gonna go find the person who knows the most about cars. I'm not gonna try myself, right?
Yeah.
So you know, I like to think of myself as someone who knows a lot about how the brain works and a lot about strategies for rewiring and making new things happen in the brain.
I think that's a great way to put it too. And I tell everybody at the gym, I say, if you want to improve in something, hire a coach. You know, I use a business coach, I use a life coach. People come to me for fitness coaching. People come to you for mental performance coaching. Is that what you can
Absolutely. Put it? You know, and everything that I teach people is the things I do every day. You know, I don't start my day without it.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, if you like what we heard, what you heard today, talk to Miles a little bit more. Everybody, if you're in the challenge, you get a free consultation. Give him a call, set something up. And Miles, thanks for joining us.
Appreciate
your time. Good luck in the challenge.
Good luck.